I'm super excited to be here, guys. My name is Jason. I'm a co-founder of Love Local Media with this gentleman over here who's running sound, doing all the heavy lifting right now, Cole Keller. We built Love Local Media just with a dream, let's be honest, to be able to help amplify local small businesses and local nonprofits' voices. You see, we learned a lot during COVID. I'm sure many of you all did, and in your own unique ways. And what we learned by creating content in the community, that the 6 degrees of separation within our community is real. And that if we can make content that can help uplift, if we can make content to be able to showcase our small businesses, if we can make content to help tell the stories of the people that are in our community, we could truly grow together and we could heal together. That's super important for us, and that's why we built Love Local Media. That's why we built this studio. We work out of it, but we also rent it out to the businesses, to the nonprofits, to the people that want to amplify their voice. The heart of this company is what I started talking about and what we got started. It's Love Local Chicagoland. What Love Local Chicagoland, my friends? That's a social media channel. It's a YouTube channel that's we're going to double down and continue to grow. That's our air game. You see, I think, and I've seen it already happen throughout this experience, I think we could, through stories, we could help people in our local community. Shows that are coming out of here about mental health, shows that are coming out of here around helping empower single moms, and the list could go on and on, are truly inspiring. We built this Local Talks as our ground game. It started in this space, but who knows where it goes? Who knows how this continues to evolve? But what I have found through content creation, that it's best when you get to pass the mic to pretty amazing people. And you get to hear what their passions are, what their niches are. And I think through that, and through focusing on helping uplifting each other, I think we could change our local communities. But here's the deal, we're gonna need everybody on board. The fact that you're all here today, it brings me so much joy. Some of you know me, I like to cry. It is what it is. I'm not gonna cry today, going into my inner side, but I'm super, super grateful. Let me come to this thing. So, questions at the end. We're gonna save time, she has some time. There's a lot in our world right now that is going on. When we came to build this Local Talks event, we came at it from finding peace in chaos. And I think, when I think of that, I think of like, well, life is just kind of chaotic in general, right? Like some of us are parents, some of us are building businesses, some of us are working, some of us are nonprofit leaders. Life is crazy. Some of us are taking care of our parents. Some of us are doing all of the above. But then you add this revolution we're in where we have this cell phone with our social media that's right in front of us. And you have the 24-hour news cycle that's on there. And it's just nuts. And what I have found through some of the amazing people on this panel, when you find good rhythms and when you find best practices, game on, guys. And these people are going to be able to help you do that when it comes to peace. Peace isn't always easy to get to. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you don't even know where to start. But I'm going to tell you from putting this panel together with this amazing woman, Nicole Bolden, which I'll talk about in a minute, you're going to learn a lot today. And I hope you brought notes. If not, you should bring out your notepad within your phone, because there's so much wisdom on this panel that is going to leave you all leaving here with best practices to be able to live life peacefully, no matter the side of the wave you're on. We couldn't do this alone. Sponsorship is huge for us to be able to keep this going. I once thought that this was going to be a nonprofit. As a business builder, I don't think that's the best case for me to be able to go right now. So being able to get help with sponsorship is huge. By you all doing your part and being able to pay a little bit is huge to help us continue to go. You see, what we're going to create on here, we're going to take it to the air too. And we're going to create content around that so we could do the things that we talked about doing earlier. but we couldn't do that without sponsorships. We have a gold sponsor with Royal Family Real Estate. He's not here today, but Royal Hartwig. He will be the #1 brokerage in the Schaumburg area. I promise you that. He's been a mentor and a friend, and he believes in what we're doing, and he's putting money to be able to back that. We also have, where's Kimberly at? She's back there, maybe somewhere. Oh, there you go. Hi. Kimberly Dahlem with Dahlem Enterprises, but she's also an author that just wrote this book called Pivoting with Grace. That's a heck of a title. She is here as a presenting sponsor, a platinum sponsor with us as well. Her book is back there. She's got a show that's starting in here called Just Kimberly, where she's got a voice and she's got a story, and I can't wait for. My wife keeps like looking at me. I'm like, stop looking at me like that, right? She's got a voice that's pretty amazing, and you're gonna continue to hear that fly. But on your way out, stop at her table. It's gonna be, you're gonna get everything that I just said and probably more. Our next platinum sponsor is Raghu Sundara. A lot of people in this room know Raghu Sundara. There's a 6 degrees of separation from Raghu Sundara. I can honestly say I hated networking. I hated going into these associations and building relationships in the community because I felt everybody just wanted my card, and I didn't gel with that. But then when I met that man in June of 2020, that changed because he was like, Jay, it's about deeper relationships. It's about connecting with people and finding out how you could make them and help them thrive, and in turn, they're gonna help you thrive. I have the opportunity to be a business partner with him in Village Networking as well, but his Always Be Connecting is a platinum sponsor here, and I am super grateful for him and for his squad boosters who are doing great work out in the community to be able to help connect people for all the right reasons. I'm almost done talking. All right. I'm going to introduce you to the panel, or to the moderator now, and she's going to introduce you to the panel that we have up here. This idea came to me in the middle of the night, probably around 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night, about what this topic was going to be. Some people were like, well, why don't you plan it out for the year? And I'm like, well, here's the deal. I kind of just go off of what I'm feeling and what I think people need to be able to go and need in this time in history. So sometimes it's just like, here's an idea and let's go. This idea came in on a Wednesday night, and right before bedtime, finding peace in chaos, this is what we're gonna do. I think that we could build something pretty special, but I'm like, who's gonna moderate this? It ain't gonna be me. This is when we pass the mic to people, and I didn't know. I got to go see Nicole that morning at a coffee and contacts with the Schaumburg Business Association, and she was talking about a lot of things, but she talks about the power of yes. She's also has things within her field where she does silent retreats. So I'm sitting up here and I'm listening to her talk, and I'm like, I don't know if she knows this yet. She's going to be hosting this, or moderating this panel. And I went up to her afterwards and asked her to do it. She was like, I'm in. And ever since that, we've been working collaboratively to be able to help build a really strong panel with some very diverse voices that are going to be coming from different perspectives, so that we could make sure that everybody that leaves here leaves with something that is valuable. She has tons of experience. Let me name off some of it. She's a licensed social worker. She was in the Peace Corps. You didn't have that on here, but you could say that. I think that's important. She's a transformational coach, a speaker, and she's also got a couple businesses, Thriving with Baby and also Living Bolden. She helps visionary women and organizations reclaim clarity, peace, and purpose. She's been doing this for over 19 years, so since she's been 3, and she's also written a couple books. But to me, she's got a lot on her plate, as you could tell. She has a lot of ideas too, and she's out executing them, making them happen. And the beautiful thing about this is it's about the collaboration and us coming together to be like, who's going to be on this panel? So I'm going to shush right now, and I'm going to pass the mic to Miss Nicole Bolden. But thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you all. Wow, that was loud. I wasn't expecting it to be loud. Sorry. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And before we even start talking about anything, I want to make sure that you all know that I'm glad that you're here for a reason, but this really is supposed to be a moment to breathe, not judgment. You're where you are because that's where you're supposed to be right now. So we're not gonna beat ourselves up. This is really just a moment to pause. When we were talking about peace and chaos, so Jason asked, we asked each other, like, what does peace and chaos mean to you? And the first thing I said is not just, being able to do yoga, sorry, Mary. That's part of it, and being Zen. That's not what it is. It's not about being perfect. It's not about never being overwhelmed. Peace in the chaos is a mindset. It's remembering who you are, even when life is loud. Because life is really loud right now. And so many people get disconnected from themselves. So peace is really remembering who you are. It's having an intentional pause between stimuli and response so that you can really say, like, okay, how can I make a decision that's aligned with my values instead of just aligned with my raw emotions right now? I'll let that sit for a little bit. Peace in the chaos is being able to say your best yes, even when everything around you tell you otherwise. Peace is a mindset. It's not, we can share tools, we can share all the things, but peace, you already have access to it. And if there's one thing you take away from tonight, I want you to know that you already have access to peace. You just have to claim it. And so often we have a lot of noise around us that tell us that it's not possible. You gotta pay this money for 6 weeks and then you can attain peace. No, you may be able to have that community for 6 weeks and that could be helpful, but you already have the peace within you. And so I'm gonna introduce the panel. I have their bios in my hand, and because I know a lot of them a little bit better than others, I'm gonna take the liberty and not read their bios in its entirety, because I don't want you all to get too stuck on titles. So often we hear someone's title and then we go into this, I have to prove myself worthy, and that creates chaos. And so I'm gonna introduce them a little bit so you can understand their background, but I don't want you to get stuck on their titles because I want you to connect with the person that's up here. We chose these people intentionally, and I believe everyone in this room can connect with at least a part of these people's story. So see the person, not just the title. And so I think that's gonna be helpful for us in leaving this space with something. Because I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that we're not just talking to ourselves, but I really want you guys to get something from it when you leave this space. And so I'm gonna introduce, starting with the lovely Erin here. Erin Chan Ding, she is a freelance journalist. She's a marathon runner, she really runs. She has, 85 marathons under her belt. She's done ultra marathons. She's amazing. And she's also running for office just because she's not busy enough. She's running for Illinois State Rep. So that's a little bit about Erin Chan Ding. We got Karl Fay here, who is a father, community activist, a pastor, which is heavy at times. You're a shepherd to your flock. And so we got Karl Fay here. We have Mary Licciardi. She does a lot of things. She's a business owner, she's a community liaison, but she also owns Soul Purpose Yoga. So if you do want to do some yoga, Mary's your gal. We got James Cheng here. He is a lot of things too. He's a leadership and business consultant, but he's also an Army veteran, and he's a graduate of West Point.
Okay.
So talk about.
I thought we weren't going with titles here. I thought you were leaving that out.
Just throwing that in there.
Just throwing that in there because
No pressure.
talk about chaos. This man knows chaos. So you may want to listen to what he got to say a little bit. And then, I don't know if anyone knows who this guy at the end is. Raghu Sundara, our master networking coach here. He is, he really teaches us all to be connected, but not just for the purpose of what can you get from it. He always shares about how can you give. How do you be a giver first? And so, yes, that's a little bit about them. And I have specific questions for each of them, and I only have a couple because I want them to have time to really expound upon what they're saying. And I'm going to start with Erin. And our first question What does peace in chaos mean to you?
Ooh. So I am motivated a lot by the intersection of challenge and fun. And so, like Nicole said, I run a lot. And so you've got the challenge of a marathon. And to me, it's fun to run. I know to a lot of people, they say if I'm not running away from something, something's wrong. But part of why I run so much is that is where I find peace. And so when people say, whoa, 85 marathons, 13 ultras, I've run all 7 world marathon majors, so Sydney, Berlin, Tokyo, London, Boston, New York, Chicago. And I'm trying to run a marathon on every continent, so I have Antarctica left. And then the only reason I'm trying to run a marathon on every continent is a friend convinced me to run a sub-4 marathon in every state, and I'm at 39 states, and I was like, that's gonna take a long time. I think I'll finish the continent sooner. But part of why I run so much is that's where I find my peace. So even though sometimes something looks chaotic on the outside, to me, like, when you're running and you get the endorphins going, especially when I'm outside, right? When I'm on the treadmill, I'm usually binge watching something. Right now it's The Bear. But I won't allow myself to binge watch anything unless I'm running. So that's my secret there. I have to stay fit and binge watch at the same time. But I have to run at least several times outside, because whether or not it's like walking for you or running for me, it gives me space and time. I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, and I used to push them into the stroller, and that was kind of my mommy time, but then sometimes they'd cry and I'd have to feed them. So when they were 5, I kicked them out of the stroller, and I was like, you gotta run on your own. And now they're amazingly fast, and when we're running a race, I'm like, wait for mommy at the finish line because I can't catch you. But anyway, so now I do a lot of running on my own. I was just at Paul Douglas Forest Preserve today running, and so those of you who work here probably take walks out there as well. And there's something about being outside that's so sensory, right? You're absorbing your feet hitting the ground, the smells, the deer, all the sights. And so for me, I find that nourishing, and I find things that are percolating in my head. Sometimes the answers come to me while I'm running. Friends at church ask me, like, where do you do most of your praying? And then they answer that question for themselves. Oh, it's when you're running. And that's maybe why I run so long. It's like, I have to pray a lot. So I think that is key for me, to find that intersection of fun and challenge. There's so much peace that comes out of it. Another example is my family and I, we just were in Tanzania, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Again, the intersection of fun and challenge. My husband and I, we originally were going to Mount Kilimanjaro to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary, and we were like, well, we have to go to see the Serengeti while we're there. Oh, there's a marathon in Victoria Falls. I should go to Zimbabwe and run that marathon too. And then we're like, we're gonna be away from our kids for about a month. Let's just take them with us. So we were immensely proud of them. We took Diamox the whole way, which is an anti-altitude medication, but we took 8 days and reached the Uhuru, which is the summit, at 19,340 feet, including our 12-year-old and our 16-year-old. And our 12-year-old is tiny, so every group we passed, they were like, oh, how old is she? And I was like, Callie, tell them you're 6 so that they'll be more impressed. But they were still impressed that she was 12 and reached the top. But I bring that up to say that, yes, reaching the pinnacle, there was just so much joy in that, and so a sense of accomplishment, I think, for our kids, where I tell them, if you think of anything being hard or challenging, just think, I climbed 19,340 feet, and I reached the top, and we left at midnight for the summit, and reached the top right after sunrise. And I'm like, think about that. But even as precious as that to me, were the 8 days we spent just blissfully disconnected from anything or anybody, other than the 17 people, because it took 17 people to help get the 4 of us up there, carrying our food, our tents, our bags. And I bring that up because I still tear up thinking that we as a family will never have that experience again where we're completely we had no idea what was going on. We were literally living above the clouds in tents. And my son was like, Mommy, what if we go down in Greenland and Canada are states? And I was like, well, I'm going back up Mount Kilimanjaro if we find out we have 2 more additional states. But no, literally we didn't know what was going on. And we came down, and fortunately the biggest story was like a Jumbotron and a Coldplay concert. And we were like, okay. But having those 8 days where we were completely connected with each other and disconnected from the rest of the world, just incredibly, incredibly precious, where we ate together every meal, we laughed together. Our kids shared a tent, and my husband and I were like, they are never gonna talk this much for the rest of the year again as they are in these 8 days. And so I think being intentional too about finding those moments, and I think like coming back down, we're like, what are we gonna take from this? Like we need to be intentional as a family as well when we're below the clouds, right? And making sure that, especially with me now running for office, it's very busy with the campaign schedule, and it's the 52nd House District, which actually encompasses Bellwork, so this would be part of my district if I won. But scheduling, it's okay to schedule things, right? Schedule time together, schedule dates with my husband, and so I think I find a lot of peace there. So those are some examples.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a couple things I want to throw out there, like that intersection between fun and challenge. Erin doing that really gives her brain evidence that she could do hard things. Give your brain evidence that you could do hard things. That way the piece won't rattle you as much because you have something to fall back on. So, and then intentionality, like, yes. I'm gonna move to Karl.
Right.
So, when we were talking, you mentioned like the biblical concept of shalom. And I want to ask you to kind of tell us a little more about that concept of shalom.
Yeah. When you think about peace, I mean, oftentimes we get this concept of like, tranquility or like a relaxed state or those kinds of things. But yeah, shalom is a much richer idea. I loved what you were saying, Erin, about immersion in nature, in these wide open spaces, but also connection with your people, right? And so shalom is really a hugely relational idea. It's that you have a right relationship, a connection between you and God and the universe, that you have a right relationship with the planet on which you're living, this ground, this earth, that you have a right relationship with people, and especially those people that matter most to you, that you have a right relationship with yourself as well. There's all these sorts of layers to it. Shalom is far more than just the absence of conflict. It's more than just kind of stopping the fighting. And it's more like you start actually working together toward each other's mutual benefit. That's peace, right? So it's encompassing of all these kinds of things. Like when I know that I'm where I'm meant to be, I can be at peace. I can access shalom. When I know that I'm safe, that I am eternally loved, I get an experience of shalom. When I know that I am living into my purpose or that I belong, I am experiencing shalom. And when I am moving toward things that are not right in this world, and I'm seeking to offer myself as an agent of peace and bringing healing and wholeness to things that are broken or not right, like it's incredibly meaningful, and I'm accessing shalom, right? So I believe you can not only find peace, but there's actually power in stepping into being a peacemaker, being someone who can begin to offer that as a gift to other people, right? And yeah.
That's good. That's good. What he said. I was trying to think like, okay, how can I sum it up? But I think you summed it up beautifully. And so Mary, I'm asking Mary this question in particular because she owned a salon for a while. When you own a salon, you hear lots of different stories. And so I'm curious, how do you think self-doubt and fear impacts peace?
So I'm going to be like that nerdy person who brings the physiological response to things into this, right? And so nerdy, yep, that's me. Your heart has 40,000 neurons on it. And what that does is actually signal the brain what is to process the feelings that your heart is processing, right? So when self-doubt and fear come into your life, your heart already is feeling that initial. If it's fear, your body's starting to go into a fight or flight response. And if it's self-doubt, the stress hormones come up into that too. And Buddhists forever and ever and ever have been trying to tell people that the heart feels and the brain processes the thoughts. And now science is proving that. And so there's this whole thing that happens when I work with people. When I was a hairstylist, I'm extremely fortunate for that time in my life. And I had people come to me and call me and with like the most personal things that you can imagine. I was the first call. One of my clients lost a family member very, very tragically. And I literally was the first call. They called me and they're like, okay, we lost a family member and I have to go tell my wife and I can't do it alone. They have family around them, they have all of that. I was like, okay, I cancel my day. I go to my client, I go to the house. I'm sitting. I am not somebody who is a licensed therapist. I don't have the credentials. I read, I study, I feel. I'm a feeler. And when people were bringing that into my shop, I started seeing the connection in how they were processing over a year, over 2 years, over 3 years, over even 20 years later, what all of the fear and the chaos of life and doubt, how it enfolded them, and the work that they had to go through to get it, and my part in the process of their peace healing journey. And that was A, listening, and then B, actually, because I'm a feeler and it's a gift, explaining to them the process of going back to the Buddhists and what now science is backing up, which is the heart feels and it sends the signal to the brain. And the brain then says, okay, now I can process this. But when everybody's in those moments of doubt or fear or self-doubt, all of it, you think you're going crazy a lot. I hear that from a lot of people. Like, I'm going crazy. Me too. I just started a yoga business. And when I say I started a yoga business, I mean, I have a vision to grow here, and I'm here. And that self-doubt comes in because I'm sitting here up against a world of franchises and a Western philosophy of yoga. And that is not who I am, right? So I find a small space to rent. It's the humblest little space, but it's enough to get people in the door. And then I have to sit there and I watch yoga videos online and I go through all of these things and I start to doubt myself because I say, I'm not like that. I don't teach that way. I can't relate to people who do. This goes against the philosophy of things I have been studying for the better part of 30-something years. And then my body actually physically starts to feel the chaos. I get physical manifestations, pain, numbness, anxiety. And so I have to step back. The first thing I do is start going into deep breathing myself. And I've always been a big meditator, and I meditate probably about 2 hours a day, which is recited prayer for about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And then it's some form of chanting prayer, whether it is Buddhist, or it is literally repeating, and this is why I think it's so interesting you both brought up shalom, because as I was meditating this morning, all I kept hearing was shalom, 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 shalom. And I know shalom once means peace, but I thought that shalom twice is perfect peace. So when they used to say way back when, when Jesus was out roaming the earth, a radical hippie friend going shalom, shalom, it was that perfect peace, right? And we're not going to have it every moment of the day, but when the self-doubt creeps in, when the tragedies happen, when we're immersed in a world of everybody else isn't like us and we are who we are, that's when we step back and we go, okay, our body's giving us the signal. Maybe the heart's racing, maybe we're shaking, maybe we're tired. And then it's finding the method that works for you, which I think we're going to get into a little bit later, of quieting that stuff down. So I hope I answered that well enough.
Yes, thank you. And Mary points out something that I share all the time. It's like, what are the stories that are guiding your decisions? What are the stories that are showing up for you? Those stories will disrupt your peace. So if you can give yourself that pause to catch the stories, you may possibly be able to grab that shalom. So, moving on to James.
Well, they I give such great answers and such detailed answers as everybody else, but I'll try.
Thinking of our conversation, we talked about just like identity and how identity can be connected to peace. And so, can you tell everyone else more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that you view yourself, your identity, can determine how you react with the world. So one example is we're all trying to show our best selves to people because naturally we want people to like us. So I'm going to show you like the smart, the fun, the humorous, get you to laugh because I want you to like me. But if I consider myself my identity as the comedian, then when I throw a joke out and it doesn't land, then I suddenly feel like I'm a failure. Or for instance, like as a runner, if I see myself as the fastest runner and suddenly I'm in a marathon and I don't get the best time, then I feel like I'm a failure. So I think identity is very important to tie to in terms of confidence and how you view yourself. So what I've learned is through many years of self-awareness, basically being aware of kind of your emotions. Your emotions are a determinant of something deeper in your heart. I very much like Marshall Rosenberg in terms of nonviolent communication, and what he says that every single emotion is a symptom of your heart. And through, if you're willing to be aware and pull on that, the best example I can give is like you drive your car and there's a check engine light, and then you can ignore that check engine light, but that signal is something there. So a lot of people, what they try to do is they stuff down the emotions, like, oh, I shouldn't be angry, or I should control my emotions. But I think that's the wrong way to think about it. I think what you really need to do is say, okay, why am I angry? Why am I jealous? Why am I anxious? And normally what that means is because I'm concerned about the result. I'm concerned about the outcome. And so if I see myself, so part of me is, I grew up Buddhist, but I came to faith when I graduated high school in Taiwan. And part of learning of the faith is knowing that you're loved, that you are a child, a son or a daughter that's loved by a creator. And if you understand how a child thinks, a child that's in a perfect family, like I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, I know that she knows that I'm gonna love her and make her feel secure. She comes up to me and will ask me anything. Like I know I won't refuse her because she knows that she's safe. Versus if you think of yourself like as an orphan, like you're not part of a family, then you're always proving yourself and trying to perform to get people to like you. So it's really a shift from performance-based validation to knowing that no matter what the result, you're still loved and you're cherished and you mean and you have value in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Great. All right. Raghu. So I have a loaded, it's like a two-for question because you shared so much in our conversation. So the first one is like understanding the roles that you have, that you play in people's life, and then if you can also answer, how do you meditate but you don't actively meditate? Because you said it, and I was like, what? Tell me more. So first, the roles that you play in other people's lives, and then the meditating without actively meditating.
Yeah. So I think the role that you play in people's lives, sometimes you don't know until you find out and you ask them. So, and a lot of times it's like dancing and with a partner. You need to know how they dance, and you need to know how you dance, right? So when you say, somebody's an introvert, and I had a buddy growing up in high school, and we're still friends and all that, and but we used to hang out, and there's 4 of us, and he wouldn't say anything. Like, he'd just be hanging out. And then another person came by and he's like, hey, how come he's not talking much? Is he okay? And we're like, Vito, that's Vito. We know how, he's him watching us and being a fly on the wall and watching the conversation, that is his comfort zone. That's where he wants to be. If you force him to talk and force him to just be someone he doesn't want to be, that's when he's never going to show up again. We found that out early. And so I always think about that part, and then the role you play is sometimes it's, what your strengths are. If you're really good at something and it takes little energy for you to just pick up the phone or send somebody a text and say, Samir, how you doing today? How's your week going? That goes far. That's the role you play. So I think that the best thing that you could do is learn more about people, take the duplication out. So much duplication. How's the weather? Or how's the weather? Oh, blah. Anyone can talk about the weather. Make it count. Talk about something real. Build on something, right? You don't build transactions, you build relationships, right? And so people, I think sometimes people feel like they're just going through life or going through their days and you're just going through the motions and you're just like, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm good. Ask them, what'd you do today? Like, literally, what did you do? The 2 questions that I always ask is, what did you do before you got here? What do you got going on the rest of the day? And if they're not specific, just like we have SMART goals, be specific, right? That's the first one, measurable, all the rest. But force them, and sometimes people, if they're not trained, you talk about Chris listens, right? If they're not trained to listen, you have to train people to ask the right questions and listen. And so I think those are the roles we play in people. Everyone has different roles. And then as far as, what was the other question?
How do you meditate but no actively?
Oh, yeah. So everyone talks about meditation. I have a lot of buddies that talk about it. And, I always thought that, I'm not spiritual or I don't meditate. But then I realized, actually, I do meditate. When I'm driving and I get somewhere 10 minutes early, and I just shut the radio off and I just roll down the windows and I just hang out. That's meditation, actually. When I'm just, out in the morning just getting ready and I'm thinking about my day and I'm thinking about the 2 or 3 things that I just want to get done today. Not the 10 things, but the 2 or 3 things to make it a good day. And then I think about, what is a good day? Like, define a good day. And how many good days have I had this year, right? If every day was a good day, then, gets diluted. So there's good days, or bad days, or great days. So I just do a lot of thinking, and so I think about a lot of different things, and I use my squad, as you said, squad boosters, Jason. I use my squad, I lean on my squad to say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what's your opinion on this? And I get a lot of good feedback, and I listen a lot, and I might not get it when they're talking about it, but later on I think about, hey, what did Jason say about that thing that we're gonna start eventually, and then turn into Village, at a 10-degree weather at a walk at Bussy Woods. What was it, December of 2020? Yeah, 4-mile walk, 2 mile each way. And we were like, one day we're gonna do something cool, and we're gonna build something, and we're gonna collaborate, and it's where people can be stronger together, and that's power.
Yeah. And there, if you missed it, I'm just going to reiterate, like, those buffers in your day, those are important. That's how you can meditate or build in whatever every day. So many people are like, I don't have time for it. Put in a 2-3 minute buffer in your schedule. That's your time. It doesn't have to be 30, 40 minutes. Those 2 minutes count. And then the roles that people play is also important, because like Raghu gets charged by people. So he may be the person that initiates the text messages often. And if he's aware of that, he doesn't have to get all upset like, why doesn't anyone text me? Because that's the role people have given you in their lives. So many people is like, if they cared, they would text you. If you have been the initiator for 10 years, why all of a sudden is it gonna change? If you no longer have the capacity, let your people know so they know that your role is shifting. So often we create this chaos for ourselves because we say we don't matter to our friends anymore. You're changing the role and didn't tell anyone. So that's a big thing. Obviously, I'm passionate about that.
Preach.
Because you see all the Facebook posts, your friends aren't there for you. It's like, you're creating chaos for no reason. But I'm gonna hop around a little bit, keep you guys on your toes. I'm gonna go back to Karl. And you mentioned something, Joe, I loved it. It was about reframing yourself as not always being the main character of the world's story. Please, tell us more.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I love being the star and the center of attention. Yeah, so, I think we came into this in our conversation because I was reflecting on, like, how I learned some key inspirations of peace and how to find it, how to create it. And so one of those things that I've done is I'm an artist, a creative, and so I would do research into things that I find like soul fulfilling. And I found that incredibly important to do in such a way that was not attached to my job as a pastor and the output that I have toward people's lives, not directly. And one of those people that I immersed myself into his teaching was Desmond Tutu. So like so much good stuff within his teaching. The book of Forgiving, incredible. So I merged my practices and I meditated on his teachings, and I created a portrait that encapsulated a bunch of his teachings into the portrait. The words and the portrait merged together. But one of those quotes that lingers with me is the way to understand an enemy is to understand that in his own mind, he's not a villain, but a hero. Yeah. And that reframing of story, because I mean, chaos is when things are unpredictable. I mean, noisy is one aspect, but unpredictable, and things are pinging about, and so you're searching for a story. And you have to have a story in order to make sense of what's going on in the world. And our natural bent is always to put ourselves as the protagonist, the hero in the story, and the main character, right? But the problem is when you're always and only the main character in your world's story or the world's story, then all of a sudden it's really easy when you get busy on your own stuff to start dehumanizing people and treating them as either object or obstacle, right? And so can I move you in such a way as to help my cause, or do I need to move you out of the way in order to do that? Are you, an ally or an adversary? So to reframe your story and to basically ask the question, like, first of all, what if I'm not the main character in this story that's playing out? What if I'm the supporting character? What role am I playing in somebody else's story? Yeah, that's huge. And then as one of those, backup characters, what is it that I need to bring to that role that I've been invited into in this moment, right? And so shifting the story lens helps you step into other people's shoes and fosters empathy and humility and all those things. And it's really useful, especially if you actually want to build bridges in a world that's burning them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Something I always tell clients just to bring them back. It's like, what if it's not about you? Maybe it's not about you. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, maybe it's not about you.
Yeah.
If we could just zoom out sometimes, like, that person did not cut you off because you're the worst driver in the world. Maybe they're late for work.
They got a whole other story.
It's a
going on.
whole
Yeah.
nother story. It wasn't about you.
Yeah.
So, yes. James, I'm going to jump to you.
Okay.
How can peace be learned?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think peace can be learned. I'm a product of Schaumburg, actually the RM Rolling Medals, graduated from Front High School, went to West Point, as was mentioned before. And I just remember being in high school, just being anxious, like, test scores, trying to make a good grade. And then since we brought up West Point, the first year of West Point, as a freshman, they call you a plebeian, a plebe, and you're not allowed to talk. You only have 4 responses when an upperclassman talks to you. You can say, yes, sir, ma'am, no, sir, ma'am. I don't know. Yes, sir, no excuse, sir, I do not understand. Those are the 4. So basically, they don't want to hear any excuses from you, and basically, you want to accept responsibility and then move on. So I remember one night, I got yelled at for some reason, and so I take the uniform off, the hat, and I threw it, and when I threw it against the wall, but it flew out the window. And so you can imagine as a freshman, they're yelling you at your knowledge, and here you're not in uniform. I have to go outside the dorm room to go back to I'm on the 5th floor, go all the way down in a sea of upperclassmen. I'm just like, oh no, I'm gonna get yelled at, and oh my gosh, it's gonna be horrible, right? But it's because I cared about the result. I wanted to do well, and I think what West Point does is kind of breaks you up and says, as Pastor Karl said, you're not the main character. Like in high school, you can kind of be like the team captain. You kind of do well in school. At West Point, everybody's kind of like top of the class, and you're just nobody else, right? Fast forward 5 years later, I'm on a deployment to Iraq. It's 2004. I'm 24 years old, and I remember, now you get mortar attacks every night, and you don't know if you're going to get killed, and we're about to go outside the wire, and I'm like, okay. I found immense peace, because I asked myself, am I okay if something happens outside the wire to meet my maker? And so one of the ways you can have peace and learn peace is I have a right understanding of the world of where you're going to end up, but also be present at the present time, not worrying about each day. Like every day has its own troubles, so not worrying about the future. So I'm present today. My job right now is to protect my guys going out the wire, and if something happens to us, I'm okay with that. But if I can get everybody back alive, that's even better. And so that kind of peace can be learned. That pace is, and I learned this, the way I can describe this is the EAR method. I learned this from Good Morning Schaumburg, so it wasn't my idea, but it encapsulates what I've been thinking, is that you can only control what you can control. You can't control the things outside your control. You only can control the things within your control. So what are the things that are in your control? EAR, your effort, your attitude, and your response. So once you understand what is my attitude, what is my effort, and how do I respond to this, everything else is just noise. So that's all because I can't control what Raghu's going to say. I can't control what he's going to do, but I can respond to what he does and then have a right attitude towards it, and also be able to have the effort to put effort into the relationship if that's something I care about. So.
I'm going to say EAR, effort, attitude, response.
Yep.
All right. Don't forget about your ears.
Don't forget your ears. Everybody has ears.
And I want to take it back to Erin, because I know for myself, sometimes I could look at her and be like, oh my gosh, she is so fearless. And so I'm always curious, what is that inner story that allows you to do the hard, scary things?
Prayer and running, but also I do subscribe to, when you're making a big decision, if something freaks you out and excites you at the same time, and it's just been percolating in there, it's usually the right decision, So, I've been a twice elected school board member in Barrington 220, and the first time I ran, I went through the same thing, like, should I do this? But this is like a great opportunity. I've been asked, this was 2021, so we were in the middle of COVID lockdown. There were 11 candidates, and I was like, oh, people just need to remember my name and have a positive association with it. Unfortunately, I was voted onto the school board, won re-election this year, had 6 candidates instead of 11, so it was slightly less intense, but still scary and exciting. And so I decided after that, and this had been percolating for a couple of years, that I did want to run for state rep. And this is a whole other level, whole other planet of signature gathering. For example, for school board, I needed 50 signatures to get on the ballot. For state rep, I'm trying to get 1,500, but I need 500 that are valid. School board, I bought my own signs and yard signs and postcards, basically self-funded. And for state rep, I'm trying to raise $100,000. And a state rep mentor of mine just told me on the way here, actually, you should be wanting to raise $200,000. And I was like, oh, okay, definitely not self-funding this round. So I think that the physical scariness, what really, like in terms of bungee jumping off the Victoria Falls Bridge, or what was that?
You do it twice.
I bungee jumped off Macau Tower as well, which is the 4 747s stacked on top of each other. So it's like 4-second free fall, and my son watched. but I think that for that, sometimes statistics help. Like when I went skydiving, I made the mistake of going to dropzonedisasters.com the night before. Don't do that. But statistically, then I read, you're much more likely to die on the way there and the drive there than actually like doing the jump. And so, for that kind of the physical scariness, being the statistics do help, and the intersection of challenge and fun, right? But something like this, in terms of running for office, it takes a lot of vulnerability, right? And you're in something where somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. And I think that what James talked about in terms of identity and knowing who you are, and not judging yourself, I think that's important too. Judging yourself based on outcome and based on performance. That's key, right? Like knowing who loves you, whom you love, and what makes you you. I think there's so much peace in that, right? And when people are, I'm on the school board in an extremely purple district. I'm running for state rep in an extremely purple district. So I get a lot of pushback sometimes from certain segments of our community. And it is thinking about EAR, and how am I going to respond, right? I had an instance recently because I'm knocking doors, right, and meeting voters, and I've determined to lead with kindness no matter what. And so this woman, actually there was a man who, I was coming up to the door, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get 5 petition signatures, because we have this app on, showing how many people live in a house. And I gave him my pitch, like, hey, I'm a school board member in this area, trying to, get on the ballot for state rep. Can I get your signature and all the registered voters? And he's like, hang on a sec. And I thought he was going to get a pen, but he really got his wife. And his wife opened the door. And then kind of, I went on a little bit of a, I'm running, just to be clear, I'm running as a Democrat. And she said, just so you know, everybody in this house is unvaccinated, and we just went to go see RFK Jr. speak. And I was like, oh, so you're Republicans? And she's like, yes. And then she responded this way, and we think you people are evil. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you for clarifying. And then I just walked away, because what else could I say? Like, I could just be kind in that moment, as kind as I could, right? Because there's, at that point, I think she'd already made a judgment based on labels. And I think, part of me, wanted some kind of comeback around, vaccines or something like that. But, I'm like, no, you know what? Just, okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. I will just kind of, laugh about the situation and keep going, right? And that's happened a lot in our school board race where our school board service, where it's just about how will I respond? How will I respond to the attacks? We had a debate over LGBTQ authored books in our public high school library shelves, and when I was actually coming back from Tokyo, running the Tokyo Marathon, unsurprisingly, straight from O'Hare to the school board meeting, and this resident was like, he started pointing at me, and he said, "Erin Chan Ding, you call yourself a Christian." I had never met this gentleman in my life. I guess he was briefed that, I go to church, and I'm a woman of faith. And then he just kind of went after me, right? And then he called me a jackal at one point and said that my colleagues and I deserve life in prison for what I thought around. I thought I was still jet lagged and in the Twilight Zone. But and there were so many things I wanted to say, right? But I, just listened and just absorbed it and tried to say, this is not me. It's not me. It is something that he has internalized. This also happened to be a gentleman that had a YouTube channel and all that stuff too, and I think somebody was recording. But I think that finding that peace really is rooted in how we resolve to respond even before an attack comes, right? And I'm going to respond with kindness. And then, because what can somebody do when you're kind to them? Right? So.
I love it. Being true to yourself no matter who tries to push you. If that's who you decided you're going to be that person no matter who's around you. So, that resolve and being true to yourself. And it reminds me of something that Raghu was saying, that you don't always have to have an opinion, right? And so the last two really quick, because I know we're about to run over, but tell us a little bit about this conversation navigation concept.
Yeah, so conversation navigation is kind of getting into to eliminate duplication in conversations and getting to know people. There's that book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so be interested instead of interesting. There's so many people out there that are interesting. When you talk about networking, that's a lot of people don't like networking. A lot of people hate networking. Why? Because they've been around people who do it the wrong way. I think corporate America makes us do it the wrong way. I think it's a process or a system issue. It's not a people. Nobody wants to be a taker. Jason and I always talk about takers. There's givers and takers. Givers go to a conversation asking questions about, hey, how can I help you? Buying questions of what's a good client for you? I always talk about power partners. There's vendors and there's partners. Partnerships are ones that give back and forth, not just money, not just referrals, but it's more about listening, telling people, hey, you should actually go check that event out, or don't waste your time going to that event. I don't care if it's free. What's your time worth? So that's more about giving and taking. But when you talk about the conversation navigation piece, I always talk about it in my coaching and in my workshops. We would talk about how do you lead a conversation. A lot of people don't know. And then when you see somebody and they're a really good listener, those really good listeners, they usually have some powerful questions. So think about that. Think about somebody who you grew up with that made you feel good. Networking is belonging. Connecting is belonging. Everyone wants to belong. So when we're especially during COVID, a lot of people were by themselves. And so when they don't feel like they belong, they go and they go into their own bubble, and then they start telling themselves stories of why somebody's not texting them, or why somebody's not calling them. And so you gotta, those conversations you have when you actually ask real questions and lean into something that you gotta be okay with leaning into a subject that you have no idea what it is. And say, if somebody's really an expert on something, ask a question and just listen. Be genuine about it and listen. You'll learn more than you ever thought you would know. And it's okay not to have an opinion on something. So I always talk about this we always have to be right type of society. Everyone has to be right. Why? Because we can go to our phones and look at Google and see who's right. Before phones, in the 80s and 90s, we used to have real good conversations with people. And we used to be okay with saying, hey, you did, right? So you actually had real conversations. You actually walked away from a conversation not knowing what the real answer was. And the next time you saw them, you're like, oh yeah, I actually looked it up, or I Encyclopedia Britannica, right? Back in the day, the green ones, back in the day. Yeah, but it's okay not to be right. Think about that. People come to me sometimes, they're like, Hinduism, and they ask me about that, and I'm like, I don't know much about, I know enough, but I don't know everything, so I'm not gonna act like I do. And so if I don't know something, I'm not gonna have an opinion on it. I listen to other people and ask them what their views are, and even if it's almost like when you're talking about I think you brought up the enemy quote.
Right.
There's a reason why they think that way. So why not walk a mile in someone else's shoes? So that's what I think about when I think about conversation navigation. Just it's like the first one you meet somebody, and then you got to build on that.
Yeah. A lot of times the piece is just being able to receive someone else's story, or just let them be your authentic self and allow them to be their authentic self. Instead of just always feeling like I have to respond, I have to have the right answer. That's disruption right there. That is scary. That doesn't feel safe. That automatically activates your fight or flight. So it's just be willing to not have an opinion, be willing to ask someone else a question and just receive. That right there is gonna keep peace. Be willing to let someone vent because they got clearly their own story. It's okay, go with it, because I don't know if you're even able to receive what I have to say about it. So I'm gonna keep my peace and let you have your story, because I'm not the one that's gonna be able to change it. And then just to kind of end this off, last but not least, I want Mary to kind of share with us some things that you really do with your clients to help them with that mind-body connection, so they can try to get the evidence that peace is possible. Because even though I say you already have peace, people are okay, sure. How can we help people find that evidence that peace is within them?
I'm going to tie this back to being a hairstylist and working with people, and then obviously being a yoga instructor and working with people, and kind of piggyback off of what everybody else was talking about in terms of character and stuff like that. So, the thing is I always have an instinctual part of me that is drawn to helping people. That's just who I am. So as a hairstylist, I would sit people would sit in a chair and I would listen to them all day long. And then as a yoga instructor, before class, people come in and they tell me what happens throughout their day, and before they leave, you see these emotional things transpiring and happening. And so the first thing I would tell people in any situation where you are feeling maybe even confused, you're not really sure what you're feeling, is number one, recognize if you are having any sort of physical reactions to what's happening in the moment. That would be a headache, numbness, soreness, shoulders. Oh, we carry the burdens on the shoulders, and I see it. It takes sometimes people 15 breaths before the shoulders come into the sockets, right? And navigating and starting to pay attention when those things are happening. When you're around people who make you feel joyful or at peace with who you are, accepting, and you're in a thriving community of healthy people, you may notice that your energy, your vibrational energy, when you're stepping away from them, when you're going home, is still at this elevated place, right? But then you're immersed in a world where phones, news, interactions with people, the people that do cut you off, and self-doubting and all of those things. Notice that maybe in those moments, you're starting to see like, maybe why does my arm feel weak? Or why am I having this like dizziness? Or why am I suddenly exhausted and I've only been talking to them for 3 minutes? Well, that's your body giving you the warning. That's flight or fight already happening. That's neurons telling the brain is processing the feeling, and now it's coming out into the thought. And then all of a sudden, my exercises when I work with people is this. The first thing to do is breathe. And the inhale's really important because that's already getting you to step away. But the exhale is 10 times more important. We need to breathe in. I mean, come on, if we're not really, that's not sustainable. But what is sustainable is recognizing in that moment, okay, you know what? And even if, there are times people talk to me and I just stop and they're talking and I'm like, oop, we're done. I'm tuning out and it's, okay, now they're still talking, but now it's fading. My feelings, my sensations are coming back. And then it's that slow exhale as slowly as you can. And all of a sudden that starts telling your parasympathetic nervous system, the nerdy part of me, right? Cortisol levels to start coming down. And all of a sudden you're finding yourself 10 times more present and aware of whether you are in a peaceful situation or not. How you can step away from that peaceful situation. There's 3 books that I completely highly recommend. One of them is by David Hawkins, and it's called Power versus Force. And he measures muscle movement with various stimuli in various parts of all of our lives. News, family members, relationships, and people's muscles, when listening to rap music, it's everywhere. We like it. We're like, boom and boom, boom, pump it up. But your muscles are actually atrophying if it's negative words. News, weakness, stroke-like symptoms from negativity. And that's the body-mind connection. It really does. There's the vagus nerve. Michael Singer, book number 2, The Untethered Soul. He does talk about the vagus nerve in that, and also knowing what's in your control, what isn't, who we accept, how we accept, what we accept, what's ours and what isn't. And that is that vagus nerve goes from the base of your gut, so the things you can't stomach are sitting there. And it's moving up to the heart, and the heart's boom, 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 and your adrenaline's going, and your body can't keep up, and all of a sudden you're at that brain, and that brain is flipping and cannot process and does not know what to do. But when you take that breath, that one breath, and I always tell people 3. 3 starts it off. 3 in, 3 extra slow. And if you can at the time, literally breathe in peace and say that to yourself, and breathe out peace. 3 things. That's it. And all of a sudden, that vagus nerve starts to say, okay, hold on a second. Okay, now it's like, okay. And this is something that we really do have to practice every single day, multiple times a day, because what we are experiencing now on a daily basis is constant cortisol levels spiking, exhaustion, stress. And the only way to move through it, and the only way to find peace with that, is knowing who you are, not budging, being kind. Is being the character role, knowing your role. Is being of moral compass and courage, and helping people who need to be helped and recognizing that. And it starts with stepping back and finding your own peace, and there are those physical ways we can do that. So that overwhelming settles down. You're better for yourself, you're better for everybody else. I mean, that's really what it is. We talk about this. Nicole and I have worked together, we talk about this. And in yoga, I mean, I can tell you, yoga's not for everybody. I am not probably gonna be your best yoga teacher. Maybe I will, that depends. But what I can tell you is that physical movement, biking, hiking, bunging, whatever, working out, actually creates space in the body for that peace. And that is why I practice and teach yoga, because that is what I see happening on a daily basis with my students. It's what I saw happening in my salon when I had people in my chair and telling them to just let their shoulders drop and breathe. And this was long before I was doing all this work. But the body talks to you, and in order to keep yourself healthy physically and mentally, you have to step back and invite that peace and do that work. Yeah. 3 breaths a day, 3 times a day is what I tell people. And it makes a world of difference.
That's awesome, thank you. Oh, the third book.
Oh, the third book. So it's written by a yogi, and it's autobiography of a yoga, Paramahansa Yogananda. You do not have to be anything other than who you are. This is not a religious push or anything like that. I honor everything. But it really does actually go into a deeper dive about meditation and the benefits of Kriya Yoga, which is the meditative part mixed with the movement. It's fascinating. It's really a fascinating book. If you guys want more resources, I will give you my email, or just go online and I will email all of you books that you all need if you have the time. Books on tapes work too. You don't have to just read if you don't like to read. But they're really, really, really amazing tools that I find that work really well.
You just told your age. Books
Like,
on tape.
Books on tape.
Isn't that what it's called? What is it called?
Audiobook.
Oh, audiobooks. Okay, I'm 48. I don't care. I'm going to say it. I'm 48. I had cassette tapes, okay? If I still had a cassette player, I would have kept the stupid cassette tapes. But there you go.
See, we know, but I'm sure that maybe someone was like, what?
Oh my gosh, it did not even occur to me. I still call it books on tape when I talk to people. Like, books on tape.
I love it. I love it.
Right. I'm really sorry. You could probably read it on your device and let it talk to you, or read the words for you. I don't even know.
It's okay.
I don't know.
Cassette tapes are making a comeback. Taylor Swift's new album is coming out on cassette tape, so it's okay. It's on
Wait,
trend.
is it
It's on
seriously?
trend.
Yeah. After all, thank you. Check the box.
So, I mean, I love this. This was all so great. I thank you all for sharing your heart and being vulnerable. I thank you all for listening. If you take one thing away too, breathe. I don't know if Mary told me this, but if you lower the amount of breaths you take in a minute, that will help your body get out of fight or flight. So if your normal is 10 breaths per minute, try to get it down to 9. Try to get it down to 8. And that's gonna tell your body like you're not in fight or flight anymore. So breathe. Worst case scenario, breathe slowly.